Hello book lovers, and welcome back or welcome to Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. Today we are here to do my May TBR. Alright guys, so we are ready to figure out what we are going to be reading in May. Now there is a small problem, the small problem being that I already kind of know what I need to be reading. I am going to be taking part in the week-long Squash That series readathon, which I believe is happening from May 3rd to the 9th, and I will go ahead and link the hosts down below, as well as the videos that were posted explaining how the readathon is going to work. If you would like to take part, this is a great readathon to take part in if you are someone like me who is constantly starting series and just like not continuing them and finishing them, so this always helps with that. On top of that, I do have a specific vlog that I am planning on doing this month, which I will talk a little bit about. But it is a odd month, which means we are going to be playing my TBR game, Lezerin Egedishnisht. Will she be nice to me? No. I can tell you right now, she was very rude. She was very rude. So I'm not very optimistic about completing this month's TBR, but we are gonna give it our best shot. So if you have never watched one of my TBRs before, I have my playlist linked up above, which does have previous rounds of this TBR game, as well as, if you scroll down a little bit further, an instruction video on the rules of this game. So in this video, I'm going to go ahead and play my roles. I will be doing the viewer prompt. I did not forget it this time. So if you are new here, last time for the first time, I created a viewer prompt. Essentially, I do an additional role and you can let me know which book you are going to be reading to fulfill that prompt. I let you know a little bit more about that when we get to the actual board game. And then we will go ahead and look at the books that I'll be reading for that week-long readathon. Then we'll be looking at the additional books that I will be reading for the vlog that I'm planning, because I did not get them all on my TBR. And then, of course, we will be ending by choosing a book from my challenge cup. Before we get into the roles, we do need to check in and see how I did for my TBR in the month of March, and if I get to start off with a reward or with a punishment. The first role in March was a horror thriller mystery, and it was to start a new series. I selected Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse, and I did read this. Next prompt was to be a historical, which was published in the year of 2022. I selected What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, and I did read this. Role number 3 was to read another horror thriller mystery, this one by a new author, and I ended up selecting On a Quiet Street. I ended up DNFing it, but this does count as completed. Role number 4 had been a sci-fi, and it had been a mood read. I had selected Heatwave by TJ Klune, and I did read this. Role number 5 had been a romance, a 5-star prediction, and I idiotically selected Mother of Death and Dawn by Carissa Broadbent, which is once again back at the library. I managed to get about 200 or so pages through it, and eventually it was just so overdue at the library that I did not get the chance to read it. I will of course pick it up in the future. However, I did not get 50% through it, so I will need to take this as a loss. Final prompt was to read a fantasy that is queer, and I read Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. I did read this. However, since I did not finish one of the books, I do need to start off with a punishment. So let's head over to Natalie by the game board, and she will show us what we got for a punishment as well as role number 1. All right, everyone, here we are at the board, looking like it did last time we played it. I will not be forgetting to do the viewer prompt this time. But like I said, we do have to start off with a punishment prompt. I feel like it's been a long time since I've needed to take a punishment. I think most of them are in here right now, because usually I take them out once I've used them. So we'll see Okay, let's go with this one. What is that? Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, that's not very good. Okay, we need to choose a tome, which is a book that is over 500 pages. All right, let's go ahead and get into roll number 1 out of 5. We are starting with a romance. Whoops. All right, we're rolling a 1. Okay, so we can either move this one or we can roll this one, or move this one, I should say, because we are not knocking somebody out. So I'm trying to think back to the books that I need to get on here. Honestly, most of them I would not really consider a romance. There's one of them that maybe I would. So I think I'm gonna be, I don't know. I always feel like I'm cheating when I do like a mood read, but considering that I have a huge punishment and I have a lot of books I need to get on here, I think I'm just gonna be safe here on the first roll, because we don't know how the rest of the rolls are gonna go, and do this, which means that we are doing a romance, which is a mood read. Both babies are here sleeping, but I just felt like I had to share that they are both yawning and enjoying the show. All right, guys, so we started off a little rough here with the punishment, needing to read a tome, meaning a book that is over 500 pages. I struggled a little bit with this. I don't have a ton of books on my physical shelf that are over 500 pages. I know I don't read them that often, but then I saw one and I knew that I was meant to pick it. And that is going to be Heavenly Tyrant by Sharon J. Shao. This is the second book to Iron Widow. I have been procrastinating on reading this because I'm scared. I am scared to read this book. It was very hyped for me. It got pushed back a couple times. So I've been very patiently waiting to have this book in my hands. It is now in my hands and I am not doing anything with that. Do I think that I will read this book this month? The chances are honestly pretty low. Usually with the punishment prompts, I give myself at least a couple months to finish it. I am very confident that if I do not read this month, I will read it in the month of June, seeing as I will obviously be prioritizing queer books, and this book is in fact queer. I'm not going to talk about what's going on in the second book, obviously, because that could be spoilery, but in the first book, we are following a young woman whose sister was essentially sold to the military, and the military uses these robots, and these require the power of a man and a woman. However, it is always the woman who ends up dying because too much power is drained from her. And it seems that this is what happened to our sister. Our young woman is very upset about the system and ends up volunteering to go into the military so that she can kill the man responsible for killing her sister. Things get a little complicated when she ends up killing him because the machine drains more of his power, meaning that she is actually more powerful than him. And she becomes an Iron Widow because while it's totally fine for men to kill women, it's not okay for it to happen the other way. The army ends up trying to kill her by placing her with the most powerful soldier who's actually a prisoner of the military, and she doesn't die either, and neither does he. In fact, these are two peas in a pod. They are obviously meant to be out here fighting together, and they use the fact that they are so essential to the military success to try and make change in the society. So I'm very excited to see where this goes. The first book ended on a crazy twist, in my opinion, and I am very excited to see where the author takes the story. The queerness comes from the fact that there is a polyamorous relationship between our character, this pilot, and a friend of hers. So I'm interested to see where things go with that as well. All right, rule number 1 ended up being a romance, and I decided to, be on the safe side and select a mood read because there is one romance or one book that is primarily romance that I really wanted to get on my list this month, and that is going to be Together by Keith F. Miller Jr. This is the second book, Too Pretty. If you've been watching my videos lately, you know that I am obsessed with that book. It is a young adult contemporary romance between Jay and Leroy, and oh my god, I'm just so obsessed with the characters, with the themes, messaging, the plot, everything in this book. It is a duology. This is a book that just recently came out this year in January, so it is relatively new. So I was very happy that I got my hands on it through Pango. Like I said, this is a contemporary romance between two young Black boys who are living in a neighborhood that has an organization known as the Black Diamonds. And this is an organization that Leroy's family runs. His older brother kind of rules, I don't want to say rules over, but he kind of leads the younger generation, and his aunt leads the older generation, and his brother has been working with the gangs in the area to create peace so there's not as much gang violence, and he's been really successful with that. And then one day when Leroy and Jay are together, they end up getting attacked by an unknown group of people who are clearly trying to break the Black Diamonds apart and create chaos within this community. So on top of these two boys trying to figure out if they can be together during these difficult times, we also see this organization trying to rally and protect themselves and their community. So I am really intrigued to see where this book goes. It seems to be kind of moving in the direction of gentrification, which is a topic I enjoy reading about, to have authors explore that critically, and I have a feeling the author's going to do this as well. As you can see, there's 3 guys on this cover. Jay has a friend named Will who doesn't actually live in the town. He came and visited for a while, and they have a very strong connection to each other. So I'm very curious about, like, is this a why choose? Is this gonna be like a love triangle situation? It's difficult because Jay and Leroy are so tight. They have been through multiple life or death situations together, so I think that they are bonded for life for sure. But Will and Jay also have a pretty strong connection. They've known each other since they were very young. In a way, Will was one of the first people that kind of showed romantic interest in Jay, and so he has a very important place in Jay's life. So I'm really excited to continue to explore the relationships in here, as well as the overarching plot with these people trying to hurt a community that's just trying to thrive. All right, so we are moving into role number 2 out of 5. A historical, definitely not what we really need, but we could potentially make it work. Okay, can you see that? That's still on the board. Okay, so that is a 3. We only have 1 purple out, so we have to move this one. And this is a... okay, I don't think we can make this work anymore. A historical with plants on the cover. All right, role number 2, we ended up getting a historical, and this was to have plants on the cover. Now, I struggled with this one a little bit. I ended up choosing a book that I'm excited for, but also if I happen not to be able to get around to it, I won't be too upset because I'm also scared to read it, and that is going to be A Compound Fracture by Andrew Joseph White. I love Andrew Joseph White's writing. I mean, I got one of their books sitting right here, and this is their newer release. It doesn't exactly say it's historical, but I'm assuming based off of, like, you know, the pictures that they have here, that is what it is. I'm fighting for my life here with this. So it seems like we were following this young trans guy or trans boy. I'm assuming he's more like a teenager because these are usually young adults. And he gets attacked by someone. Obviously, it is a hate crime. And when he is at the hospital, it almost seems like there is a ghost that is there present. So it seems like potentially our character has the ability to see ghosts. And the sheriff is threatening him not to say anything because I believe one of the people that attacked him might have been the sheriff's son. However, our character starts to realize that there are other people in the town that are sick of the cycle of violence that is being perpetrated by the sheriff and those who follow him, and they are willing to risk everything to break that cycle, and our character needs to decide if he is willing to do the same. So there are trees on the cover, so those I would consider plants. Now, like I said, I do have a very specific group of books that I will for sure be getting to. This is not one of those specific books, so I don't know if I'll be able to squeeze it in. It would be great if I could because I love this author's writing, but at the same time, his books are always very difficult to read. So, you know, I wouldn't mind putting it off for a little while, not having to deal with being triggered by the topics or anything like that. All right, we are moving into roll 3 out of 5. A fantasy. A 1. Okay, we only got one guy out, so we gotta move him. And this is a So this is a fantasy published after 2020. So 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, all that jazz. But as you can see, there's a little sticker there, which does mean I have to add an additional roll. So we are up to 6 rolls. Roll number 3 ended up getting us a fantasy. This was to be published after 2020. And we also got an extra roll thanks to that little sticker. And I am finally going to be rereading Dark Rise by C.S. Pacat. This is so long overdue. I meant to read this during the last big round of Squash Head series, which happened in January and February of last year. So it has been over a year since I intended to read this book, and I just haven't. I do have the second book in the series sitting on my shelves, patiently waiting for me to reread the first one. So this is C.S. Pacat's young adult fantasy series. C.S. Pacat is someone I absolutely love. They wrote the Captive Prince series, which is an adult male fantasy story, and the story also has queerness in it, and it is also fantasy based. C.S. Pacat is very skilled at world building, which is one of the reasons I do need to reread this again because I have forgotten quite a bit. But essentially we are following a young man who at the beginning of this book is on the run from a group of people who have just killed his mother. He ends up stumbling across a group of people who are known as, are they paladins? Stewards. Apologies, stewards. And these are a group of people who live kind of outside of the human world. They kind of live through this kind of portal that only specific people can pass through, and they have been protecting humanity from a darkness. They've been training for the return of this darkness. It seems that many years ago, long before human memory can remember, there was a war between light and dark, and the dark is supposed to return and light needs to prepare to win the war again. And you know, they're struggling, they're a little short-staffed, so since our guy can enter their sanctuary, they're like, we're gonna go ahead and train you so that you can help us. And it seems like the people that were pursuing him knows that he is supposed to play some sort of important role in all of this, and they are clearly on the side of dark. Very interesting things happening in this book. This book is very much giving that Wheel of Time vibe where you have people being reborn to replay the roles they played in the original war in hopes of having a different outcome, and we get to discover what role our character played in the original war and what role he is going to play in this one. So I am very excited to read this and then continue with the series. I honestly have no idea idea how long this series is. C.S. Pacat is a very slow writer, not in a bad way. Like I said, C.S. Pacat is one of those authors that takes a lot of time with their research, and I think the quality of their books really shows that. So it does take them a little longer, 2 to 3 years to get out a new book. So it's not one of those authors where you get a book every year, but they are definitely worth the wait. So if you haven't checked these books out, I understand if you want to wait until the series is done. I usually do that, but with C.S. Pacat, I will buy their books as soon as they come out. All right, guys, so we are now on roll 4 out of 6. Whoa, contemporary. That was not, whatever. We're just gonna go with it. Even though we don't really need contemporary, we're just gonna take it. 3. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. This contemporary needs to have 4 or more words in the title. All right, roll number 4 gave us a contemporary, and this was to have, whoops, let's get that the right way, 4 or more words in the title. And boy, does this have more than 4 words, and that is You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. Is this the next book by Akwaeke Emezi I was planning on reading? No, but I did recently buy it, and out of all the contemporary lit fic books that I had on my TBR, this was the one I was the most drawn to. So this is Akwaeke Emezi's romance story. We are following a woman who has lost her husband. I believe he died about 5 years ago, and she is still very much grieving the loss of him. However, she's kind of trying to get out there, start dating again, and she ends up meeting this guy. They hit it off, and she ends up going to his home, and there she meets his father. And I believe it is a romance between the two of them. So things are going to get a little messy. Things are going to get a little taboo. But I am very excited to check this out if I have the time. Once again, this is not one of the books that I will be able to prioritize, but I definitely think that it is a book that I could love because I always love Akwaeke Emezi's work. Plus it is short. So if there's any book that I could squeeze in, I could see it being this one. All right, so we are on 5 out of 6. I was really hoping for some sci-fi. So if we could get a sci-fi, please and thank you. No, we got a horror thriller mystery. All right, so we got a 2. We only got 1. 1, 2. We're knocking someone out. So we got out a 7th roll. Oh my gosh. Okay, this has got to be a novella. So usually, I believe I consider those under about 250 pages. All right, so for roll number 5, we ended up getting a horror thriller mystery, and this one was supposed to be a novella. So for this one, I unfortunately did not have a book on my Kindle or on my physical shelf, so I'm gonna go ahead and go to the library and get The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Khaw. This is a book that I have heard quite a few good things about. It is only about 106 pages, so it definitely is a novella and could be something I could easily squeeze in this month. I believe that this is like a horror retelling of The Little Mermaid. Since it's so short, I don't want to know too much about it. I believe we are following a mermaid-esque creature, as well as a plague doctor, and I think they might stumble across a weird group of people. I'm not really sure what to expect, but I am excited to go ahead and check it out and see if it's worth all of the hype that it has been getting. All right, so we are on to 6 out of 7. If my game could start being nice to me and give me some sci-fi, that would be fun. Romance. Yeah, all right, we're gonna go with it. Another 3, so we have to move this person, which is luckily not knocking anyone out. So this romance has to be saved on Instagram. I have a few posts saved on my Instagram page of books that I am interested in, so I have to go ahead and select one of those. All right, guys, we are on to roll number 6, and this was to be saved on my Instagram. Now, I was trying to be very strategic when I went into this. I had quite a few romances saved on there that I would have loved to read. However, like I said, very limited time, so I decided to look for a manga or graphic novel that I could use, and I ended up finding Manly Eats by Mito. I will also have the name of the creator who I had saved this from. So this is the first volume of a manga that is a male-male romance. It seems to be between this taller guy and this chubbier guy, and it seems that the taller guy likes to bring the other guy food, and he seems to think that maybe he's like judging him for being heavier and really liking to eat, but the other guy's like, no, you're beautiful and I love to feed you. And I'm like, okay, so we'll go ahead and see how this works out. I'm grabbing the first volume of it, and it should be a relatively quick read, and it fulfills the prompt. So I have been wanting to get more into BL manga, so I took this opportunity to do so. All right, and what is hopefully our final roll, and maybe even a sci-fi? Maybe? Whoa! Yeah, okay, we got one sci-fi. Watch it give me a prompt that I can't even use. Okay, so we can take someone out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this is going to be by a female author. Yeah, I can make that work. All right, guys, I did not forget we are going to do our viewer prompt. I do have plans for the viewer prompt in the future. I am planning on making some small changes. I just haven't really thought them through too much. So for now, the viewer prompt is just very casual. It's something that if you would like to take part in, if you would like to let me know what you're choosing in the comments, would love to hear what you're planning on reading, but hopefully in the future something actually comes of it because I do have some plans, but for now it's just chill and for fun. So let's see what you are going to go ahead and get. You also get a sci-fi. Wow, I would have liked that sci-fi for myself, but okay. I think you guys got sci-fi last time because I think you got sci-fi and a book that is hyped. So we're going to move this one because this one would knock someone out. So 1, 2, 3. This sci-fi, if I can grab it, we're doing things very awkwardly. You got to choose a sci-fi that has what you think is a ugly cover. All right, guys, and we are finally on our final roll, and this was a sci-fi. We finally got a sci-fi. Oh my gosh. And it was to be written by a female author. I had a few options to choose from, but I decided to just go ahead and go with Gear Breakers by Zoe Hana Mikuta. This author is actually going to the University of Washington, or at least she was at the time of writing this book, which, hey, fellow UW girl, in Seattle. And this is one of the books that I will be reading for that vlog. It is the only book out of 4 books that I'm reading for that vlog that I actually got on this TBR. Hence why I'm so skeptical about me reading any of the other books on my TBR. So this seems to be a young adult sapphic story. We have this society that is being ruled by a group of people that can control these giant robots. It seems like one of the people that we're following is a gear breaker, and I believe it is her job to get into these robots and just kind of mess up their inside so they don't properly work. And she gets caught and thrown into prison, and she meets this other girl who apparently was one of the pilots of these, and she was like, oh, my enemy. But then she realizes that this pilot had actually been like a spy and was pretending to be on the evil people's side so that she can kind of infiltrate them. And so the two of them start to work together to take them down for good. So I'm excited to check it out. I wonder if you can kind of guess what kind of books I will be reading for this vlog. I will give you the answer in just a little bit. All right, guys, and just to recap, you did have a viewer prompt, and that was to read a sci-fi with what you perceive to be an ugly cover. So sorry you guys got sci-fi twice in a row. Hopefully you guys like sci-fi. If you don't, hopefully next time you get a different genre. But let's go ahead and get into the 2 books that I'm planning on reading for the Squash That series readathon. Now usually I would try to read like more than that. However, I foolishly decided to read 2 books that are over 400 pages. And also I don't want to rely on audiobooks because I am just not reading audiobooks. So essentially the theme of this round is spring cleaning, and there are different rooms with different prompts. And I decided to focus on the backyard because this had prompts that I could work with. And you can double up, triple up, quadruple up as much as you would like. So here are the prompts for the backyard. And the main reason I chose this is because it is the only room where you can read a book that is a first in the series. Obviously, this is about tackling series, so usually you should not be reading first books and starting new series, but this has a prompt of reread the first book, and I'm gonna put Dark Rise by C.S. Pacat on this. It is well over time for me to read this, so that is essentially why I chose Backyard, and this will be the first book I will be reading. And then the second book is actually going to fulfill the other 3 prompts, which is most anticipated, new release, and sequel to a 5-star read, and that is going to be together. This book, like I said, just came out in January, so it is a new release. It is a book that I am highly anticipating. I mean, I just read this book at the end of March. Yeah, it was the last book I read in March, and I probably would have tried to get it on my April TBR if I hadn't already had my April TBR set by the time that I finished that book. So I am very eager to get to this, and I did give the first book 5 stars. So these are the 2 books that I am going to be reading. Both of them are slightly over 400 pages. I was originally going to try and read 3 books. However, I already need to try and read over 100 pages a day just to get through these 2. So I decided to be smart and just read these. I think it'll take most of my time, especially since this one has a lot of world building. I definitely don't want to rush it. So that's what you can expect from me. I will be doing a vlog for that week, so I will be talking about these 2 books in it. All right, and then let's talk about the vlog that will probably be taking up most of my month. I already mentioned that I'm going to be reading Gear Breaker for it, and yes, I am going to be reading a vlog about queer people in giant mega robots. So there'll be a total of 4 books. The first one, like I mentioned, is going to be Gear Breaker. The second one is going to be August Kitco and the Mechas from Space. This is a book I recently hauled, which was kind of what made me decide it was time for me to do this vlog. I've been thinking about it for a little while, and then when I got this one, I was like, it's time. So this is a story about humanity sees that a giant race of robots is heading to Earth, and they're not really even gonna fight. They're just like, well, we had a good run. And we are following at least one character who is a pianist, and he was just kind of like, hey, I'm just gonna play my piano until I get blown up, and that is how I'm gonna go out. Except he ends up getting rescued by one of these robots, and it seems like some of these robots are saving humans and letting these humans pilot them so that they can fight the other robots. So I'm very excited about this one. Up next, we have a novella, which unfortunately was not a horror thriller mystery, so I could not put it on my TBR. I checked the tags in Goodreads, it is not. But that is gonna be Hard Reboot by Django Wexler. And essentially this just says giant freaking robots. It says, I came for the giant robots and stayed for the giant freaking robots tearing each other to shreds with blades. That's all I know. It is sapphic, but yeah, no, it being sapphic, it being giant robots killing each other, that's all I need. It's super short. And then the final one is going to be Phoenix Extravagant by Yoon Ha Lee. This one, I believe, follows a non-binary character who paints these large mega robots that the government uses. But I think one day they decide to steal one of these robots, and they're like, yeah, we're done. We know the government's dirty little secrets, and we are going to fight back now. So very excited to be reading all 4 of these books. Usually I only do 3 books in a vlog, but I figured since one of these is a little teeny tiny guy, it should be okay. I am traveling this month. Towards the end of the month, I am going to South Carolina. I believe that'll happen while I am reading these books because I might break them up just a little bit because I feel like reading 4 books about mechs might just become a little bit too much. Am I reading these books because I am too scared to read Heavenly Tyrant, and this is a way for me to get that mech robot fix without reading that book? Yes. But now I'm going to be reading that book anyway. Am I including in this vlog? No. However, once I read these, hopefully I will be in such a mood for more mech robots that I will pick up Heavenly Tyrants without any trouble. All right, guys. And finally, the Challenge Cup. Will I be reading this book this month? Not a chance in hell. Nope. I mean, the bright side, I have read all of my challenge books. I don't have any challenge books that I still need to get to, so we are very much on schedule. Though that ends today. All right. Oh my gosh. I am so scared. Like, what if it's a super long one? Like, what if it's one that's 500 pages? And I'm like, no, I already have a book that's over 500 pages. Oh my god. No. It is the 500. It is literally the 500 page one. Oh my gosh. What is it called? What did I choose for this? Oh my gosh. The Throne of Five Winds. Okay. Okay. All right, so coming in at a little over 650 pages, this is the first book in a fantasy series. It seems like our main characters might be 2 princesses and their maids, and it seems one of these princesses was sold into marriage to this kingdom, and the other one is kind of a hostage to force the good behavior of her people. She's kind of like, if you don't behave, we're gonna kill her kind of situation. And it seems that the emperor of this kingdom that they are living in is aging, and he has 6 sons who are all eager to get the throne. So things are escalating quickly, and our characters are kind of stuck in the middle of all this. So it sounds really interesting. I have been really excited to get into this. Is now the time? Nope. But we're gonna go ahead and grab her from the library and get to her as soon as possible. All right, guys, so here are all the books that I need to read in the month of May. That's a lot of books. And, you know, I love to read, and I read a lot. Do I read this much? Absolutely not. I mean, you can kind of tell which ones you will most likely be seeing. Like I said, I have my vlog, I have the readathon. That being said, though, I am really excited for the month of May, especially that vlog that I'm planning on doing. I'm really excited to dive into these sci-fi books, and hopefully I have a great time with that. Will you be seeing that vlog in the month of May? No, like I said, it'll probably go through the end of my trip in South Carolina, which doesn't end until the 27th of the month. So you'll probably be seeing this in early June, but I will be reading them this month and hopefully having a great time with them, and hopefully also squeezing in a few extra books. That being said, guys, let me know down below what you'll be reading for the viewer prompt. Let me know any other books that you are excited to be reading in the month of May. As always, guys, thank you so much for supporting my channel by watching my videos, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!